Hello, everyone, and thank you for selecting Team 6 here today to develop your digital campaign for Seattle Air Tram Gondola System. So we're very excited to talk today and walk through how Seattle Air Tram Gondola System can reduce commuter traffic congestion, provide safe and convenient services. And so these are some of the things that we've highlighted. What we want to cover today are things on the agenda in terms of market analysis, marketing objectives, strategies, the social piece, what timeline and budget will look like, how that ties into our promotional schedule, and the next steps that we need to address as well. So if we start with the internal analysis for Seattle, a couple of things stood out to our team. Seattle has a robust transportation system and infrastructure, and we know that a gondola cable-propelled system is currently under construction and consideration. Seattle citizens are definitely among the most environmentally conscious in America. We know traffic is a significant issue for Seattleites, which is these are all reasons we're here. And there are alternative public transportation well adopted by everyone in the city. And one of the things from an external analysis perspective that stood out for us was this, in Seattle Times in 2016, talked about Seattle was ranked the 26th worst metro area in the US with respect to pollution. So a couple things that we know that the tram system can bring to the community, and we're definitely excited to talk to you about it. So I'm going to hand it over to Misty, and she's going to cover external analysis, some of our objectives, and how that measures in terms of key performance indicators.
All right, awesome, Mark. Thank you for turning that over. So if we look at some of these external factors, as he established, Seattleites tend to be very environmentally conscious. So the usage of the urban gondolas has a minimal environmental impact as it reduces energy consumption and air pollution. So obviously that's going to work to the advantage of those that are, looking out for the environment there in Seattle. So also some studies we researched show that the urban gondolas can transport up to 10,000 passengers an hour, which is the equivalent to 100 buses or 2,000 cars. So minimal space is also required to set up the stations and towers, making it a viable solution with a densely populated city like Seattle. All right, so let's get into the SWOT analysis. We're going to start with strengths. So as we have established, we talked about existing public transportation being already well adapted in Seattle. So things like buses, rails, as well as ferry options. And going into additional strengths. So it's a very attractive landscape. Our first picture was the skyline. So riding the gondola gives people a chance to check that view out. You got your coast, mountains, and different things to look. So we're really selling the experience. Opportunities. So the population exceeds 700,000. It is one of the fastest growing cities based off our research. A lot of people still looking to relocate. A lot of millennials, young professionals looking to relocate to Seattle. It is a top 10 US city for population density with about close to 8,000 people per square mile, creating a need for alternative transit. Seattle is the fourth most congested city with traffic in the US. So all of those give us great opportunities for this Seattle Air Tram. Talk about weaknesses. So limitations of the gondola system include a fixed route, low maximum capacity per ride, and potentially high cost relative to other methods of transportation. Constrained budget for the first 12 months. As we all know, $100,000 doesn't go really far for this type of project, and it's a potential constraint for generating brand awareness. So let's talk about the threats. Seattle transportation options, excluding existing public transit, includes private transportation and rideshare companies, i.e. Uber. Unfavorable response from city officials impacting gondola stops, ride routes, number of points connected. All right, so let's talk about the objectives and key performance indicators. We're going to elaborate a little bit more on these as we go through the rest of our presentation, but we're going to hit on, we want to generate overall awareness for Seattle Air Tram, increase gondola usage, build a sense of community among the users, and generate sales revenues. So with that, I am going to hand it over to Graham to knock things off.
All right, thanks, Misty. As Misty mentioned, we're going to go into more detail about the 4 key objectives and KPIs for the campaign. The first one is generating overall awareness. So this will be a new transportation system coming to the city of Seattle, and the most important step is to make sure that Seattleites are aware of it. And specifically the people that are in our target demographics of working professionals and students, which we'll talk about more later. So overall, in the first 12 months of the campaign, it's our objective to make sure that 20% of Seattle commuters that are in the target market are able to recall the Seattle Air Tram and be familiar with it based on unaided brand awareness. It's going to be an important part of how we make sure that we're making an impact for the folks that we're trying to get to ride the gondola. The next is, of course, increasing the actual usage of the gondola. As a transportation system, an important part of this is just getting people to take that first ride to try it out. And so we're going to measure that based on the percentage of the total population who are giving it a try. Repeat users will be an important measurement to see if people try the experience and decide to come back and continue to use the gondola system. And of course, the ultimate is subscription membership for commuters who actually want to make it part of their actual commuting plan and buying monthly or annual ride passes. The metric we're going to use to measure that is that 35% of our riders on the Seattle Air Tram are repeat users, and we feel like that will be an important way to indicate whether or not we're making an impact. The third measurement is building a sense of community. An important part of why we selected Seattle, as we mentioned earlier, is that there is a kind of a collective green mentality within the city. Environmentally conscious decision-making is an important thing to a lot of people who choose to live in Seattle. And so a big part of how we're going to build a sense of community is making sure that people understand that that is a key value proposition of this gondola system, that it's reducing pollution. As we mentioned earlier, it's taking buses and cars off the road, hopefully. And if we can build that sense of pride in being green, we think that Seattleites will really adopt this new transportation method. The goal there would be to have 23 million social media interactions on the various platforms that we're going to engage with, and that would be within the 12-month campaign period. And last, but most importantly, would be actual sales and proving that this is a viable transportation method for the city. The objective is $500,000 in total sales for the first 12 months, and we're going to measure that through a variety of different metrics, including the average ticket price sold. We'll speak later about the different tiers for different customers on the gondola, averages across different time periods, and then, of course, just the gross number of tickets sold within each tier. But again, the overall objective for the first 12 months of this campaign would be to generate the $500,000 in revenue for the city. So next, Lindsay is going to talk about our target market positioning and some of our sample social media posts.
All right, thanks, Graham. So we're going to focus on our business commuters and working professionals as our main target market. These will be males and females in their mid-20s to late 40s. They can spend up to several hours a week in traffic. So we're just going to try to get them up and away from traffic instead of waiting on the highways. This will be a cost-effective and more efficient way to travel. Seattle Air Tram will be focused on providing them a new convenient transportation method. And then since it runs continuously, there'll be minimal wait time. Our second focus will be on college students. Again, these will be males and females between the age of 18 and 25. Since there are approximately 10 colleges within 10 miles of Seattle City Center, this will be a good market to target. Again, this will be a green and cool eco-friendly system that they can use to avoid the rain. And then, so to get the word out, we're going to focus on our social media. So for our campaign, we're going to use the three main tags: Seattle Air Tram, Enjoy the View, and Vibe the Seattle Sky. These are relatable, memorable, and that'll be able to get commuters just get the word out. And then our main sources of social media, again, are going to be Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. So we'll each have a username for each of those. And then here we have examples of some of the content that we're going to be posting. We're going to keep them witty, relatable, and just to get people engaged. And then here are some examples of our Twitter account. And so as you can see, again, they're going to be funny, so people will want to keep going back to them. And then for our celebrities, we're going to use Russell Wilson and Jeff Bezos. We were able to allocate a small portion of our budget of $15,000. But we're going to negotiate and have them work on donations with us to get them really engaged. These will be able to just call out to social media users to just get talking about the air tram and get them to use it. So next we're going to pass this on to Michelle. She's going to talk about the sales and promotional schedule.
So we've developed a plan, a conservative one that I might add, that will give you a 57% incremental sales over your goal. So we feel really confident about this because we have two primary promotional types. So we explored cross promotions, which, as you can see, have different Seattle organizations and businesses. And then the second type is Seattle Air Tram specific promotions. So these will be promotions that are more related to events. And then since, as Graham mentioned, we know annual membership is going to be one of our KPIs and metrics, that we have a few promotions and drives to make sure that we're getting membership. So the first one will be in February, March. So that'll be shortly after we launch. And then the second one is around the holiday time. So really drive the next year, so the 2019 annual membership. So to help you reach the sales goal that I previously mentioned and maximize trial, we're recommending a pricing strategy that's about 100 unit index to the Seattle light rail system. So this will give you a comparable and competitive pricing strategy for tickets. And then the annual passes, that cost is also comparable to what's currently out in the marketplace. And then as you can see on the right, this sales plan that we've previously mentioned, the sales mix shown is based on the demographics of the Seattle public transportation users. So we feel really confident with this sales mix and the pricing strategy that we can achieve that 57% above your goal. As Lindsay mentioned, we have three primary focus areas, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So we're breaking down here the $70,000 we're spending in social spend. So for Facebook, our focus for your first 6 months is an awareness drive. We plan to front load. And then that second half of the year is really focusing on retargeting and retention of the consumers. In the middle, Twitter, we feel an always-on strategy, so consistent spend is really important. Whereas with Instagram, Instagram is about pictures, about the experience, about being fun and witty, as we showed you with the posts. So we won't have any spend in the first couple months, but that's really to allow the gondola to kick off. We have some promotional ideas. So then we're going to front load the Instagram spend with an experience focus to connect with some of those event-based ideas we've showed you in the previous slides. And lastly, retargeting and retention, that's always important. So with the Instagram back half, that will be our focus. So to round us out, we feel really confident in this app plan. And so what we're looking for to make sure that we stay on track for your project launch is a final agreement on those pricing tiers, approval of our marketing schedule, approval of the final brand strategy, including the creative assets, and then lastly, a conversation and discussion of the ongoing creative assets and content development that we'll be having throughout the year. So we'd like to open it up for discussion, and we thank you for your time.